Imagine a place where the boundaries of age, industry, background, and culture melt away, replaced by a shared desire to explore the depths of our collective experiences. Here, on the open, shaded porch, amidst an atmosphere of serenity and tranquility, leaders from all walks of life gather to share their stories, the stories that shape their very beings and doings. This is the Knowledge Mindfulness Porch with Laila Maroof.
I'm back on the Knowledge Mindfulness Porch with Richard Haykel. We'll be discussing his inspiring career and the road he has traveled to arrive at Haykel Hospital. Now, Richie, I'd like to understand more about your pursuit of lifelong learning. I know you attended many of the Harvard business programs, but what do you usually look for in these leadership development programs?
So I'm a junkie. I'm an education junkie. Part of it at the beginning was to move away, but then I got addicted to it because learning is such a fascinating. You said that you wanted to learn from me today. I don't think you'll be learning from me. I think we'll be sharing because Laila, you yourself are a dictionary, I think, of knowledge and experience as well. For a woman in our part of the world to have succeeded and achieved what you have achieved, hats off, and I'm super proud.
Thank you.
Call you a friend. But when it comes to these education programs, what I did initially is I went to see most of them. I went to the Stanford program. I went to the London Business School, to the Harvard Business School. I did most of those executive programs. What I found is that most of them have certain areas in which they're specialized. So if I felt that I was weak in finance and balance sheets, EBITDA and NPVs, I'd want to go to London Business School more than I would want to go to Harvard. But if I wanted to learn about HR and management, I would be more interested in going to Harvard. If I wanted to learn more about startups in the world of today, which is basically very different from the world where we study, I'd go to Stanford.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you and I had approached our significant others or our parents and said, we want to invest in a company that has zero revenue and zero assets, I think most of us in our part of the world would be thrown out by their families from the windows. But if you look at it, that was WhatsApp and Google and Amazon. And Amazon kept losing infinite amount of money for a very long period, right? I mean,
yes,
that mindset was really alien and foreign to me. I thought it was extremely important that I understand it. Perhaps I don't want to master it and become the master of the arts in that field, but I needed to understand how that world functions because that's the new. I mean, when you look to hire people in the West today, you buy out startups that went bankrupt. You won't be able to hire people coming out of the Ivy Leagues because they all want to do their own startups. So if you want to hire them, you wait for them to do their experience and then you buy their startup and you incorporate it into your company in order to attract them. And also it's very important, Laila, that we're a bit schizophrenic and bipolar. When we get set in our ways, we forget how to speak and how to speak to each other. And today, if I want to talk to the Z generation and the Y generation, the millennials, it's a very different conversation that I'm having with a doctor that's 70 years old. A doctor that's 30 years old today, his incentives and his aspirations are very different from a doctor that's 70 years old and where he is in his life. And the language is very different. So it's extremely important that you open your horizon and move out of your comfort zone by going to these programs and doing them. I had Professor Ferguson, he was the Manchester United coach who had created this amazing team.
Oh my God, yes.
He gave us a course on leadership and it's I'm feisty. So I raised my hand and I said, well, I'm sorry, but when you left, the whole thing fell apart. How do you consider yourself to be successful? And
I love that.
And he told me, look, it's very simple. Nobody asked me to manage up. Everybody asked me to manage down. Everybody asked me to manage the stars. And so I was able to manage the stars and I did a very good job at managing the stars and building a team. But nobody asked me to manage from CEO up to the board.
And succession later on.
No, nobody asked it of. So why would I do it if nobody asked it of?
So that's missing, you think, in today's programs?
Yeah, I think what's missing is like you had said earlier. It's not either or. It can be a combination of more than one or two or three or four paradigms, right? I mean, you can have a VUCA leadership in the finance department. You can have a PDCA. You can have a Kaizen in the manufacturing. You can have in the kitchen. They work with Kaizen. It's very simple. It's not rocket science. It's Kaizen for them. Not to say that, but it fits how the kitchen creates the meals every day and how the laundry washes the laundry every day. You cannot come to the guys in the kitchen and say, today I want you to use VUCA attitude. They have 800 meals to prepare. He's not going to decide to change the recipe and change the oven and nobody.
How about social sciences, Richard? How about social sciences integrated into the business world? What do you think of that? Is it time?
Of course it is. Of course it's important to have social sciences integrated into. I think management's becoming a science. It's no longer this flair of know-how, and the different kind of condiments and the different kind of things that will make this salad are not. It's not purely math, right? Why are most engineers today CEOs and chairmen of multinationals? Because they're very good with numbers. So you show them the balance sheet, and you show them the EBITDA, and you show them the NPV, and you show them the enterprise value, and the guy or the lady can calculate it very quickly, right? But it's not about that only, you know.
What about people? What about dealing with people, right? What about?
Well, you have to be. We in our work experience, we put the customer in the middle, and everything is built around them. It's a cobweb. Center is the customer. What does the customer want, right? And what problem we solve? It's simple. People have issues, and we need to help them solve. How do we solve? And how do we solve them with their consent? Another issue I think that's very important today is honesty, because you have a lot of, and in the medical field, a lot of things are going unchecked and unsaid. I have this discussion with lots of friends. Whenever you sit with a caregiver or a doctor, there needs to be a sense of logic. If there is no logic, don't listen to it. I don't care if it's the best professor at Sloan Kettering, or if it's the best professor at Johns Hopkins, or if it's the best nurse I don't know where. If it doesn't make sense, stop and ask the right questions. Ask the right questions. It has to make sense.
But see, that's the word, make sense, because what makes sense to you will not make sense to me, for instance, right? So it all boils to our knowledge maturity. How complex is the way we are in terms of our knowledge maturity? And what I mean by that, how much do I ask the tough questions inside and outside, right? The why is not only about outside. When I say knowledge for you, Richard, what does knowledge mean even?
Knowledge for me is learning something that I don't know, that I have no clue what it's about, and not having the illusion of knowledge that I know.
And what about knowing about yourself? Do you consider that part of your knowledge?
Of course. Coming back to what I said earlier, what I think I'm sorry for being derogatory in that sense. The worst enemy is yourself. You're your worst enemy. If I'm fat today, it's because I don't take care of my diet. I can easily say, oh, it's the cancer patients in Lebanon that I need to smuggle medications to make sure they get treated. Oh, it's the financial sector. Oh, it's a country without a government and a president for a year now. Those are excuses. The real reason is probably I have an issue with myself. Am I strong enough to stand in front of that mirror and get naked emotionally, mentally, and challenge myself? And do I have the ability to see without filters? Is it when I was a child, my brother and mother had a better relationship than I did, and I'm still looking for it? Is it me because I'm projecting? I don't want to go to work, or I don't want to make a hard decision today, so hence I'll take it out on the grape leaves that we have for lunch. I mean, yes, I think it's extremely important that you look at yourself in the mirror and you try to get emotionally and physically, not physically, mentally and emotionally naked, and try to see what it is in you that you can make better. I think it was Kobe Bryant that once said, it's not about becoming a champion tomorrow. It's about changing and adapting and getting better day by day, so that whatever, 5 years, 10 years down the road, you're much better than where you were, but you're still not. It's all about the journey. Sorry, Laila.
No. I mean, this is exactly what knowledge mindfulness is all about, taking responsibility, taking charge of your life. You are your own change agent first before applying that to the other, right? And that's an amazing, amazing tool that you have, Richard, here. But where do you go to understand more about your psychology, about human being, and what makes us humans in this world now, the AI world, much more like valuable than ever before. Where do you go for in terms of sources for philosophy, psychology? What are your information sources?
Going to these executive programs is a big source. Reading lots of books is another source. Today, you have so many platforms online that can help you. There are so many blogs and so many different apps that you can use today to just make you move out of your comfort. And I think moving out of your comfort zone is great. So if I hate Chinese food, I'm going to go and take a Chinese cooking class, right? If I don't understand the dynamics of finance, I'm going to go to London Business School. I'm going to sit in that class until I try to get a grasp. I'm not going to become a minister again, but I need to do that, right?
And for people who this thing doesn't come easily for them, what's your advice? I mean, it seems like it comes naturally to you now. I don't know if it was part of your upbringing, it was part of your learnings, your parenting. I don't know. But I want to hear from you. If someone is the opposite of Richard, what is your advice? Where does he start?
Don't be scared. There's no fear. There's nothing wrong with I don't know. When the kids used to come back from class, I used to ask them, what questions did you ask today? I didn't ask them if they had a good day or a bad day. I wanted to make sure that if they had not understood something, they had the courage to have all their friends see them as imbeciles by raising their hand and asking a question that maybe everybody else in the class understood, and they did it. People are scared. We're tribal. We work in pods, and people are most of the time scared of asking themselves hard questions, and they're scared of the image that they project. If you're going to be giving me a lecture, Laila, on mindfulness, I shouldn't be ashamed to say, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Can you please explain that to me, right? Doing that is that the other 20 people in the class are going to look at me and say, look how stupid he is. He didn't understand the basic principle. So many people will choose not to ask the question because of the image that they'll portray, or because that they'll have a certain kind of non-self-confidence that they show people that they don't know.
It's about shrinking the ego, because I think maybe one of the biggest problems we have now, especially when it comes to leadership, is ego, right? Do we put impact over ego? Do we, like you said, it's all about being mindful of what I know and what I don't know about the situation, assessing that. How do I fill my knowledge gap? Having that maturity. Even you were talking about social media, but social media has the two sides of the sword, as they say, because there's a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of disinformation, and these are big, big problems. And if you don't know how to filter and how to assess and what do you take in that you can use in your life and your work that you can trust, that is the biggest problem that the new generations kind of have nowadays, right?
I agree completely. The other day I was sitting with one of our children, and I was watching CNN, and then I flipped to Fox. And it was my son, and he said, why are you doing that? I was like, because I want to hear both sides. It's the same piece of news, right? It's the same. They're both talking about an event that happened at one moment in time, but both of them are showing you completely different perspectives. I was telling my son is that it's important to see how people think and what they say. People here have a very difficult time accepting the other. People here have a very difficult time wanting to listen. Lebanon is divided down to three major sects: the Christians, the Sunnis, and the Shias. And whenever you sit with any one of those, they say, we're going to live in this country with these other people. We can't live with other people. It's like, what's wrong with living all together?
Which was happening for the last 1,000 years ago, right?
No, what's wrong?
What's going on now?
If you're the kind of person that wants to put a burqa and you believe and you have your faith, that's your business. And if I'm the kind of person that wants to put a beer on the seashore and enjoy my drink, that's my business.
Yeah.
As long as I don't do it breaking any rules and any laws, that's fine. So once again, not to give you too much credit, but you said it. It's not either or. It's a combination of many choices. And this is one of the things I tell the directors in the hospital. It's not Disney World. It's not black and white.
Yes.
There's little black and little white. There's a lot of gray.
I think this is what will distinguish us as humans with those robotics and AI that's coming out, right? It's that we can really distinguish between the gray. It's not either or. It's not white or black. And this is scary getting into the AI world where it's only black and white in one way or another, right?
I completely agree. I think AI is, the nefarious side of AI is much more dangerous than anything else. However, with all due respect, Laila, you probably had a boiled egg today in the morning. And you're probably doing 5 million different processes as we speak. Your brain is processing salt, the sugar, the blood pressure, the tears in your eyes, the wrinkle in your smile, the teeth, the gums, and all that is done on an egg, on a single egg that you had boiled in the morning and ate, and calorie-wise. Today, to duplicate that with a computer, you'd need a building maybe 11 stories high for the power generation in order for that computer to manage the number of processes that your brain's doing right now. So I think AI is a bit further down the road. However, if the international community doesn't start to see how to regulate it, and they're unified, they put aside their differences, I think East-West should, although they're at war right now in Ukraine, but I think a lot of people should try and put aside their differences, because if AI is left unchecked, it'll probably take both sides. I think it's important that we do. But coming back to the story of Disney, it leads me to another thing that I'd like to share with you, is that most people think that their lives are tied to an event, right? It's that knight with the white shining horse that's coming to save the damsel. They live happily ever after. So you probably say, like, when I get married, I will do this. Those are milestones, but those won't change the way you are and the way you think and the way you behave. I think it's more...
And the way we feel.
And the way you feel. And I think it's more important that you enjoy the journey and celebrate every moment along the way rather than the milestones. Because when the milestones come, then it's on to the next one. And it doesn't change much. And as I told my daughter when she was rejected from all these job applications that she did, I said, I think you learn more by being rejected than by being accepted to the first job offer you got. So
you are such a knowledge mindful leader, even to your daughter, really. I mean, this generation, the young generation, with all the pressures, with all the noise around them, with all the distraction, I mean, we can't but speak about mental health, Richard, right? Because it's a big, big issue right now, especially for the younger generation. What do you do? What does Richard do to wind down? What do you do? What are your methods?
When I have one of those days, I come back home and I put on the Minions on TV. I put on one of those like cartoons that has no sense, that makes no sense whatsoever. Or I watch Seinfeld, or I watch Big Bang Theory. Those are sitcoms that'll just make my mind go off rather than process. And it's another way of letting it out. Reading also and listening to music is extremely important.
How about silence? How about nature, going to a walk?
Well, big time. My wife sometimes looks at me and says, how can you stay alone so much? I hope you're not listening to this, Shireen, but I cherish the time that I'm alone.
Is it time for reflection, Richard, your time alone?
It's time for reflection, and it's extremely important that you take a notepad and you write takeaways, because many times you process many things and you find solutions and logic and for certain feelings and issues, yes. And then you forget them. It's super important that you write them.
Yes.
And you do write them down when you're back on the plane or on the car or in the office. Just take them back out.
So you use your pen. You still use that pen of yours, right?
Yeah.
I'm a pen person, right? It's like, wow. It's like copybooks, papers everywhere. You think that's a therapy, right?
For me, it's a big therapy. For me, it's a tremendous therapy. And I'm still a paper person. I'm sorry.
Why are you sorry? I mean, really, I think it gives us a lot of what we were talking about, that personal therapy, that personal time. And we kind of surface a lot of what's inside. And I think once that is surfaced, then you can review, right? You can kind of evaluate, what is my assumption here? What's my biases? And I think by doing that, it's again, we're refreshing that knowledge flow of ours, right? In many ways, because you don't want it to be stagnant. You don't want it to be just like, it doesn't work anymore. What is it doing there? Let's get rid of it.
The sorry is for the environment. The sorry is for the environment and the damage that it's doing to the environment.
Oh my God, Richard, that's another story. If we want to look at the headlines nowadays, temperatures in July reached levels that have not been seen in 120,000 years for now. That's crazy. What is that? And then in another headline, oh my God, thousands of dead fish have washed up the sand of Texas Gulf. In another headline, India, Russia, they stopped exporting rice. I mean, these are different headlines. My mind goes, oh my God, it starts connecting these dots together in a way that really raises a big red flag. Where are we heading, Richard?
I'm not the Oracle of Tripoli to be able to answer all those questions, but I can give you my point of view. I mean,
that's the whole point, Richard. Everyone has to work in their own circles, right?
Giving too much credit there. But I mean, it's also to know that half of Pakistan is still underwater, and that's sad because of the flood that they had. I think that leads more for us to look at the human being. I come from a particular school of thought that thinks that when communism lost and capitalism won, when you leave things to their natural way, we're an extremely destructive being. You know, we think of ourselves, like you were saying earlier, how can we think of the collective? How can we think of the social aspect? How do we think about our feelings? It's no longer, it's about what do I have and how much of it do I have? If you look back in your grandfather's closet, he had probably 2 white shirts. If you look at your grandmother, she probably had 1 or 2 purses. If you look at my closet today, I'm ashamed to say how many. I think I need more than 1 closet just for white shirts, type of thing. You know, it's the collective being of society has fallen to the wayside versus the I. It's no longer the we, it's the I, and it's about how many watches do you have, how many cars do you have, how many houses do you have, what do you have, and sadly, the Gini index worldwide is getting, radical. And also, we thought that the internet would democratize the world, and I think we're seeing the contrary. With all these behemoths that are being created, whether Google, Amazon, you don't find anymore that small grocery shop. For sure, there are benefits, but also I can see that there are a lot of disadvantages, and we're losing our humanity. We exploit Mother Earth in a way that's beyond any acceptable way. The hospital has been voted the greenest hospital in the Middle East for the last 7 years. It's one of our primary objectives is to be environmentally friendly. We might be looking into selling even carbon credits in the few years that are coming. It comes from the premise that we can't be bipolar and ask you to come to get well while we're polluting your environment to make you sick. Difference between the talk and the walk, right? You said it earlier as well. It's a lot of us talk a lot of talk. The question is, can we walk it? And can we admit when we can't walk it? It's not only it's about when we walk it, it's when we say it, but we can't walk. Do we say we can't walk it, but we talk it? I think that's an extremely important aspect for mindfulness and growth mindset. Many times we preach to the choir, but we're actually not doing what we're preaching, and we brush it off.
In a way, I think that's not knowledge, because if you don't act on your knowledge, then I don't consider it a knowledge, right? You're just aware of it in many ways.
And you're not admitting that you're not admitting that you're at fault. There's nothing wrong with being at fault. There's nothing wrong with making money.
And when you don't admit, you don't take responsibilities.
People vilify you. You make money. It's that a sin? If I make money the honest way, is that a bad thing? If I work hard, is that a bad thing? No, but do I have obligations to my society, to my community? And it's all different ethnicities? Yes. Is it the ethnicities that are going to dictate the future? No. It's abilities. It's a meritocracy based on fungibility. Everybody should have the right opportunity to do what they need to do. America needs to look at their education system, their public education system. They need to change it. And that needs hard decisions. And perhaps they're not willing to make those decisions because they don't want to piss donors off.
Where's the priority? Is it the human being or is it the profits? It's the money, right?
No, it's always the human being, and it's always knowledge, and it's always capacity building. It's always capacity building. Capacity building not in terms of only what we teach in schools, capacity building in terms of what we teach as humans. There's a beautiful ad, I'll send it to you, that was done, I think, by Cleveland Clinic, where it's about empathy, right? It shows you all the different people that work in an establishment, but it also shows you their different points of view. Some people have terminal cancer, and some people just got a new baby into the family, and some people were just saved and cured. Healthcare has so many different, we're a restaurant, we're a hotel.
And I think that's great in many ways, right? In many ways, this is the interdisciplinary approach we're thinking about. And that's why you're thinking in that way. You have that integrative thinking, because of all these dimensions and parts that are working together as a whole, right? In harmony, in as much harmony as possible.
That's exactly it. And it comes to what we were speaking at the beginning. How do you align incentives?
Yes.
How do you make it the nurse's objective the same as the doctor's objective? Usually, the nurse's objective is to have a lower hour shift, and to get off work enough to go see her children, which is perfectly human. How can you make sure that she can do that while at the same time making sure the patient gets the best care? While you're making sure that the doctor can come and visit. I'll give you a very, very small example. Giving birth. What's the C-section rate? So we were able to lower the C-section rate in the hospital by half, very simply by forcing doctors to sign off on the parameters needed for a woman to qualify for a C-section. Wow. So the doctor would not want to show his competition or her competition that they were doing something because they needed to be at a dinner early enough, because a lot of them will do it just because they have a dinner, or because they have a clinic, or because they have patients waiting for them, or because they have things to do.
This is a great example. Wow.
As soon as you expose them and you made sure that Dr. Laila has to go to Dr. Richard and make him sign off that was a C-section, it was a 50% reduction rate, because Laila does not want to show Richard that she has a non-professional approach to C-sections.
But right? That gives me also a very clear idea about your priority as a hospital, because now you're giving me a really solid example of how patients' care is on top of profit. Although you're a private hospital, but that's not the case in all hospitals, Richard. You're talking about a lot of situations where we see more C-sections because of profit, right? And that's a problem. We're talking about focusing on the tangible, like you said, focusing on the money and the clothes and the houses. Does that bring happiness to us? I don't know.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And to go on to the C-section, it's about a 60% difference in remuneration. So when the doctor at the hospital does a C-section, we're paid more. But if you look at the morbidities and you look at the mortalities and you look at when you're opening a person's abdomen, you're exposing them to morbidity and mortality rate that's much higher. So if you were actually to tabulate, as a doctor and as a hospital, you don't tabulate because you're not paying the bill, you're getting paid. Mm-hmm. It's the insurance companies and the governments that are paying the bill. So when you look at it from your vantage point, you're like, yeah, so the more morbidities, the more turnover. But then again, isn't that a negative outcome for the patient? Isn't that a negative thing for our society? But if I'm going to break an insurance company, or if I'm going to break a healthcare institute, a healthcare provider, then aren't we hurting ourselves? Aren't we doing something bad for ourselves? And second, it comes back to the dimension that I raised earlier. We have an obligation to our society.
But see, again, not everyone sees it that way. Nobody sees, like you said, the I versus the we. And the we for you extends to the community. Not even to your people in the hospital, your employees and all that. It extends to the community, which I think shows you a lot of that interconnection between who you are as a leader, your people, your culture, your community. They're all interconnected in a way that your success is their success and their success is your success. That interplay, right?
Yeah, these days it's their success. I have nothing to do with their success. You don't do anything. They manage the whole thing on their own. But it's definitely part of our obligation. Profit's not always the factor that drives healthcare institutions. And if it is, it's probably because the markets in the states where they're being traded look at their quarterly results, and that's all they care about. My son had an appendix in Tampa when he was in school last year. He had to pay $107,000.
Wow. No way.
He was admitted at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and he was dismissed at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my God.
Negotiating with the hospital and the insurance, it came down to about $89,000.
That's crazy.
We can do pretty much the same operation in Lebanon for $1,300 to $1,400.
Wow.
And I can guarantee you that we get much more personal.
So it's time to change, Richard. It's time to change, really. I mean, whatever worked in the last 50 years, even 10 years ago, I don't think it's going to work in the next 10 years, right? So if you want to leave us with one statement, what does success mean to Richard?
Success for me means walking the talk and empowering people to do what you do because they can even do it better if you incentivize them properly. And incentivize them properly does not necessarily mean only financial remuneration. If you create the right culture, if you create the right approach in your institution, whatever it may be, continuity, sustainability is much more important than the I. And when you do that and you succeed, for me, the biggest success is when I see people leading this institution into more and more success without me having to do anything. I think that's the ultimate sense of success for me, from one sense. But let me qualify that statement. You have to accept that people are different from you. Yes. People will do things differently. And maybe on the fringes, you would have done better on the 5%. And maybe they would have done better on 10% than what you have done. So you have to accept. You don't dismiss when they're better than you, and you refuse it when they do something that's not good. You support them, you help them, you get their backs, and you stand by them. And you have to accept that people are different. And you have to accept that, yes, you might have done it better, but it's okay. They've done other things that you would have done much worse.
Yes, we complement each other in our capabilities as human beings. I mean, even defining intelligence is not the right way. We've been doing it for the last many years, right? It's all about different capabilities, and that's what intelligence is, right? But I can't thank you, Richard, enough. I can't tell you how much I've learned today. So much, but I know one thing. You are a great example of a knowledge-mindful leader in your life, in your work, in your parenting, and I'm so appreciative of the time you gave us today.
Thank you, Laila, for an amazing opportunity to share knowledge and mindfulness with you. It's superb to have the ability to, give and take with a person like you, and thank you so much.
You're welcome. That brings us to the end of this week's Knowledge Mindfulness Porch. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. If you have the time, we would really appreciate if you leave us a review so other amazing individuals like you can find us. Thanks for listening.
You have been listening to the Knowledge Mindfulness Porch with Laila Marouf. If you want to join the movement of knowledge mindfulness and shape the world of tomorrow, go to drlailamarouf.com. The Knowledge Mindfulness Porch is a production of Forbes Books.